Everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica, another episode in our Unported playlist series where I take a look at some of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. And today we're taking a look at 1992's R-Type Leo, which technically was ported to Windows machines in the Irem arcade collection, but one, that is very hard to find, and two, it doesn't run on Windows 10, it crashes my PC every time I try it, so the only way that I can effectively play this game is via emulation, and is what I recommend to you guys too. Before we get too far involved though, if you could do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, ring that notification bell, definitely helps me out. And if you feel so inclined, we have a Patreon link down there as well if you want to support the channel. But R-Type Leo is an interesting game because it wasn't originally designed to be an R-Type game whatsoever. It was actually a completely new shmup in development by Namco, which apparently was retooled by Irem to become an R-Type game. So while it does look and play similar to R-Type, it definitely has its own vibe going on. And it was the last R-Type game that was released in arcades. Everything from there came home on home consoles, and depending on when I release this video, R-Type Final 2 is either close to launch or it is already out. And I'm really hoping that that game is going to be good because R-Type Final on the PlayStation 2 was outstanding, and I'm hoping for Final 2 to be as good if not better. I'm really hoping I'm not disappointed on that one. But if you like shmups, you're going to like this game. It's definitely not a bullet hell game. It feels way closer to something like Pulsar in the fact that it is a lot slower of a game, which is something I actually really enjoy in shmups. Now, I do love a good cave-style bullet hell shooter as well, but I love when I really have to get good at a game, memorize the patterns, and kind of really navigate while having enough time to actually see what's going on around me. And you'll see there the minute that the boss opens up its weak point, I shoot those little satellite ships right in front of me, and that's going to be one of the core mechanics, because those are going to do a lot more damage than your primary weapon, and of course, like any shmup, you're going to be able to power those up, but really employing those satellite ships at the right time is not going to make the game easier, but it's going to make it play a lot better, because you don't have to use them whatsoever, and you can even do a challenge run when you don't focus on them, but it is such a huge mechanic. What I also love about R-Type Leo is just how much fun the stages are. We're now going into a desert stage after having just been in outer space, and we have all these big rocks that we have to navigate around, and movement is such a huge part of this game. Granted, it's a big part in all shmups, but you see those projectiles coming out. We kind of have to wait them out in a little bit further back area of the screen until we can safely advance forward. And when these two satellite dishes, or whatever they are, lack of a better term, come in, we're going to start getting boxed in, and spatial awareness and movement are going to become a really big mechanic. And you'll see I did accidentally touch that laser there, and I do get hit. And the one thing that I will say about R-Type Leo is it feels like your hitbox is a little bit bigger than most shmups. Maybe I'm just blaming the hitbox on me not playing well sometimes when I'm capturing, but something like a cave shmup with all those bullets on screen, your actual hitbox is quite small. And in most normal shmups, it isn't going to be your entire ship. But in R-Type Leo, it feels like if you even so much as get close to grazing something, you're going to get hit. And you'll see here I'm in a really bad spot and a disadvantage, and I have to wait it out until I'm safely able to move up top. And that's what I actually enjoy about these type of shmups, is the patience element. You need to really pick your line, you need to be able to identify what's coming up in front of you, and you need to time everything so as to not take a death. Because like any shmup, dying, you're going to lose your weapon power-ups, and you can get to a point where you're basically so underpowered that it becomes almost impossible unless you just kind of continue to scum the game and just fight through it by making it easy by throwing in more virtual credits, because in an arcade setting you can really get yourself into a situation where you're stuck. What you do now is just listen to a little bit of the sound effects from the soundtrack, because they are quite good. I'll come back in about a minute, we'll talk more about R-Type Leo, but I particularly enjoy this stage and all those emerald green colors and all the weird kind of organic enemies we're fighting. I'll be back in just a second. Enjoy! And now we're coming up on another boss again, and I really do love the boss designs in this game. Granted, they're all mechanical, it kind of feels organic in nature, and you'll see I totally did not read that well, and I took that gigantic laser blast right to the face. This game is hard, but it never feels unfairly hard until you get to probably right around the last stage. This is something that if you're trying to learn some shmups and get some 1-credit continue completions underneath your belt, it might be a really good game to start with, because if you memorize this, you're going to get good at it really quickly. And the game really isn't that long whatsoever. You can finish it in around 15 minutes. So if you really are looking to get better at this genre and you want to see if you can actually challenge yourself and complete a game on 1 credit, this is one that I would recommend that you probably look towards. Maybe Pulsar 2, because these slower, more methodical shmups are going to be some of the games that are easier to actually get 1-credit continues on. And you'll see there that I wasn't really focusing on what was behind me, and I rammed my ship right into that little stalactite, or stalagmite, can never remember which one those are. And that's the thing about this game, is you're seeing we have projectiles coming from the front, coming from the back, and sometimes being in the center of the screen is actually where you want to be, because you do have those bullets coming in both directions. Other times you really want to hang back and give yourself the most amount of time to react to what's going to be happening in front of you. And I do like that as a mechanic when you actually have to manage projectiles both in front and in back. And all the bosses are creative. These look like gigantic cube brains, and you'll see again, as we had to stay in the middle of the screen during the stage, the game is kind of teaching us that in the boss fight coming up, that's going to be a mechanic that we really do have to worry about. And like I showed you earlier in the game when we get stuck between those two satellites, now the game is going to be closing that off even more, and you're going to have to navigate your ship and deal with enemies and projectiles while these areas of the game compress and contract around you and make your passage smaller. And there's going to be more than one way you can go, and you really have to decide what's going to work best for you, because there's definitely better routes and worse routes depending on what's happening at that moment in time. But R-Type is a super fun series, and Leo is one of those games. It's not one that's talked about as much as the rest of the games, and like I did say earlier, a port technically does exist. Maybe it's just my system, but I cannot get that collection to run whatsoever, and I have heard from other people online that did get it to run that it's plagued with a lot of slowdown issues. So if you want to play R-Type Leo, I 100% recommend you do it in MAME, because it is the only way I can get the game to run, and it is the best running version of the game as well. So I kind of just don't even count that port. Plus, hey, it's my channel and I can cheat now and again if I really feel like doing so. But like I said, if you're into shmups and you've never played this one, and chances are you probably haven't because it's not one of the most prevalent games in the series, 100% check it out, and maybe it'll get you inspired to buy R-Type Final 2 when that game comes out, if it is good. Fingers crossed that that's not going to be a letdown, but you're never quite sure what's going to happen. But shmups in general are a really fun genre that I always enjoy playing because they're short. You can get a lot of gameplay in, and then you can really buckle down and learn and memorize them. And that's a lot of what I like about playing a shmup, is the memorization aspect. You can just go through the game over and over again, pick individual stages, and really try to memorize exactly what's going to happen, so it almost becomes muscle memory. And that's where emulation is really useful for that too. I do know a lot of people that like to work on 1-credit continues will use save states at the beginning of each stage so they can practice one individual area of the game without having to get there in the first place. And you'll see here even more fun mechanics as you go through those red barriers. You're going to activate the enemies around you, so you really have to time what you're going to do and when, and you'll see there I did poorly and I have taken another loss. It is a hard game, but it is not the hardest I've ever seen. But short of that, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I love chatting with you guys. Have you ever played R-Type Leo, or what's your favorite R-Type game in the series? But I will be back next Sunday with another Unported arcade game, and I will have videos on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday as well. And I'm always coming up with new things to do, so you never know what's going to show up on the channel. And I make these sometimes so far in advance, even I'm not sure what's going to be happening when I publish them. But like I said, I highly recommend checking this game out. It emulates super well. It only takes about 15 minutes to complete from start to finish, and if you like the shmup genre, or if you like giant robot crab spiders jumping up and down in front of you, you're really going to enjoy the game. But if you could do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. It definitely helps us out. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Short of that, hopefully you don't encounter any giant robot spiders in your personal life, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.